Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Christianthan. Co-hosting with me today is our Director of Sales, Sarah Williams.
Hi,
Sarah,
everybody.
hello. I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Ashleigh Kaplan. Ashleigh is the Corporate Development Manager at Streetscape. Welcome to the show, Ashleigh. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So Ashleigh and I and Sarah all connected on Instagram. So I immediately was interested to see what Ashleigh was up to. You guys make sure to connect to Ashleigh on Instagram. So what's your handle on Instagram?
Sell homes with tech. So that's where you can find me.
Sell homes with tech. So be sure
We
to
love
check
that
out.
title. We love
Yes,
that.
because she puts out some really cool content on Instagram. And so definitely follow her if you're interested in all things home builder technology. So Ashleigh, we'd love to learn about you so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more. So if you don't mind giving us your life story, what your journey has been, and what is it that you do now?
Perfect. So as you introduced, I'm currently the Corporate Development Manager for Streetscape, which is a lot management system that is developed for residential land developers, and it is obviously used to manage their lot inventory. They're our primary kind of clients, and then under them are all of the builders and architectural consultant users, which we work with daily to make sure that they're using the system in the way that is in alignment with the land developers' policies and procedures to streamline operations, reduce costs, increase efficiencies, etc. Basically, all the things you want technology to do to make your life easier. So how I got here though is, I guess from an educational standpoint, I went to university, got my business degree. That's what you do. You finish high school, you go to university, bang that off as fast as you can. I focused kind of in like operations management, and during that period of university, I met my husband, who's obviously great, and he wanted to move to Australia for a couple of years, so that's what we did. We moved to Australia. It was a growth experience. We lived there. He did his law degree, and basically while we were there, I was like, hey, I'm just working retail jobs. Like, it was a very work and travel sort of a situation. And then when it came time for us to come back, meaning my husband was done his degree, I was like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, what do I actually care about? What interests me? And at that time, we were looking for a place to live because obviously, we didn't have anywhere. And we were looking at buying, renting, building. We were looking at all the options. And I became a little bit like of a data obsessed person. I was like, made spreadsheets and, was having comparables, like looking at rent, looking at mortgage rates, looking like just trying to understand everything I can, right? Like it was like a sponge. So I was like, okay, so clearly I'm a bit obsessed with this house buying thing or house looking at thing. So I was like, all right, when we get back, like we're going to get somewhere to live. We did. We just ended up renting for a bit, which is fine. And then I was like, I've always loved going to show homes. I've loved I've never even lived in a resale home before. Every home I had ever lived in my whole life was a home that my parents had built. And then obviously I built when we were ready to make that step. So I was like, I'm going to start applying to home builders. Like, I think this is something I'm interested in. I think that my skills, they're probably a little misaligned, but that's okay. I've done some sales, I've done some operations. So that's where I started, was working for a home builder doing new home sales. And I really enjoyed that job. I think anybody who's done, new home sales, it's so amazing to walk customers through that journey from the time they, first come into the show home and they're like, don't know anything, to the time that they're even just signing their contract. They can start to visualize their home and their future life, through the journey that you brought them through. So really enjoyed that part of my role, but I guess I'm an eager beaver and was like, I want a little bit more of a challenge eventually. Sales is awesome. I love it. I love the thrill. I still do, the adrenaline rush. I was like, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to steer into my degree. We're going to do something more operational. I got in contact with Streetscape, and they're like, hey, we're actually looking to scale our operations. We need somebody to come in as a customer success manager. We're really interested in you because you have, these skills and this experience. And so I kind of took the leap, and working as a customer success manager, managing more like break fix solutions. Like obviously, if we were talking about technology earlier on, how sometimes things don't work as expected, and doing a lot of more user education on the platform. So that's kind of where I started. And then I had a baby, so I went on maternity leave. In Canada, we get a nice long maternity leave. And then when I came back as the corporate development manager, more a little bit more focused on kind of growing the operations and maybe a little bit more financial than it was before. So that's kind of a bit about my history as a professional in the home building, land development sphere. Oh, I guess, why did I start this Instagram page to begin with? That's probably a good quick segue here, is through my experience of chatting with builders, chatting with developers, I was literally always, using my screen, sharing things, being like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Like just showing them cool tools. And I was like doing it on a, inside of my little bubble of, these are my clients. These are the ones I talk to. I'm showing them literally how to like screen record thends and be like, next time you have a problem, just screen record it. And then I can help you a lot more easily than if you type out an 8-page email and then we don't end up getting to a resolution. So there's little things like that where I was always sharing kind of quick tips to help ease the break fix issues that we were having, and sharing the technology that I'm using to make my life easier. And I'm like, my scope is so small right now, I'd like to expand it. So that is why I started sharing how to sell homes with technology on the internet. And it was primarily the builders that I was chatting with that were always the ones asking about these things. And so I'm like, I think I should share this in a more broad way, because I think everybody can learn from it. And I think you guys will agree that our industry is a little bit on the slower side with adopting technology. So I'm like, anybody that can promote this, I think will help all of us here.
Very cool. We love that. So Ashleigh, before we dive into things, you've mentioned both developers and builders. So I think a lot of our listeners are in sales and marketing, and they may not necessarily be familiar with what the difference is between a developer and a builder. Can you define that for us real quick, just so everybody's on the same page?
Sure. So when I'm speaking about a developer, I'm talking about the seller of service lots in master plan communities. When I'm speaking about a builder, I'm referring to the company that purchases said lot to build the home for the third-party buyer.
Perfect. And sorry to go off the definitions again, depending on where you are in the country, you may not be familiar with the master plan. So here in the Northeast, we don't really have master plans, where in Florida, you're master plan galore. So can you define what is a master plan community?
Sure. So a master plan community is basically I'm just going to say it's a big parcel of land that has been planned out from basically a committee, whether that's an architectural committee or an HOA or something like that, with amenities and kind of all of the infrastructure that goes along with it, with phases, blocks, and lots that obviously can be purchased and are going to be distributed. Essentially, it puts the builder in the position where their responsibility is just to build their home, and the developer takes care of all of the infrastructure, the amenities that will go into that community to help sell it.
Yeah, so it's almost like a mini city a lot of times, right? So sometimes they'll have their own shopping centers and rec halls and all types of things. And typically it involves multiple builders. So that can be both single family homes. Sometimes they'll add townhomes into it. So it could be mixed architecture, but they all tend to look kind of similar in the way that, you do feel like it's a uniform community. So Ashleigh, what type of clients do you work with? Who's your ideal client, and what do you guys help them with?
Yeah, so our ideal clients are definitely developers for master plan communities. Here I mentioned we're in Western Canada, and that is definitely the preponderance of our development method. I'm personally in Calgary, Alberta, and it's suburb central here. So basically everyone lives in a master plan community of some sort. Only 20% of our population lives in the core, and 80% lives on the perimeter. And same with basically the surrounding larger cities in Alberta and Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, etc. So those are definitely our key clients. And what Streetscape helps them do is we take their lot inventory and we provide a couple of different tools. Number one is, as I mentioned, for it's an architectural system. So for master plan communities, there's a lot of planning that goes into how the community is going to look. There's architectural guidelines that need to be followed, what colors you can use, how the front elevations look, if they're if this is a community where you want to have a very like cabin kind of look, you're obviously going to have different roof lines that are allowed, et cetera, et cetera. So the system basically supports the submission and processing of architectural submissions from the builders and the developers, and then the architectural consultants review all of them, and it's all very timed, right? You want to be able to push these through quickly because they impact your ability to get building permits. So the system streamlines the process. A big part of it is accountability. You can see who did what, everything's timestamped, et cetera. It's very transparent. Those are our key kind of 3 user groups, and our key customers are our residential land developers, and then our builders and our consultants are obviously key inputs into the system. It wouldn't work without builders selling homes. There's nothing for architectural consultants to review, and there's nothing for developers. They're not making any money because they're not selling any lots. So basically, that's kind of what our key system does for the architectural side of things. We also have some visualization capabilities, doing interactive lot maps that go on websites, and then compliance tools to basically allow the developers to control the process from the time that a lot is taken down by a builder to the point where the community is finished and all of the concrete damage that may have occurred during that build is refurbished. We call them activity channels, but there's basically sales activities, then architectural activities, and then inspection activities where you review the exterior of the home, make sure it's in compliance with the plans, as well as you go back onto the site and make sure that the site that is not damaged, because obviously for master plan communities, because the developers are the ones that are responsible for the infrastructure, they're also responsible if it gets damaged during the build. So it's allocating those damages fairly in accordance with who actually did it and stuff like that. So that's basically the system at its core is we manage the lot from the sale all the way to the completion of the community. Then the network of participants, meaning the consultants, builders, and developers, go through all those processes that basically my job is to help design all of those processes so that everything just stays in alignment and in compliance, and that the process is streamlined, simple to understand, and there's a fair allocation of costs throughout the build process.
Where do you find there's most red tape, or what takes the longest in the building process, since you kind of see it from start to finish? What's taking the most time for whether it's the developer or home builder to really make that home a reality for the buyer?
Well, I think that it depends on the product type a little bit, right? I think for we work with a lot of custom builders as well as smaller, more production builders. Mm-hmm. So for production builders, I think that it's, to be perfectly honest, with COVID, we had a lot of hangups with getting permits and stuff moving forward. So for production builders, that was taking quite a long time to kind of get the foundation in the ground, along with I don't know if you guys have this, but we had a bunch of labor shortages as well. So even this is more from my just experience in the industry and chatting with our builders, is it was taking forever to get a framer to get on site. So the actual construction process has just been taking a little bit longer due to all the supply chain issues that we have encountered, as well as the labor shortages. But for our custom builders, I think a lot of the times it's actually getting to the plans, right? Working with the customers through that process to get to, this is how your house is going to look. And I think that is partially with any home, actually, with whether it's a production, your first home from a production builder or your last home from a great custom builder, it's having the ability to get those visuals. It isn't always quick and easy, especially when it has to go through rounds and rounds of drafting to see those small changes. I've literally been, when I was working in new home sales, like sitting there coloring with a pencil crayon, like to help people visualize their exterior and what it's going to look like if they pick this color hardy board versus this color. So
yes, fun times,
Yes.
coloring. And then no wonder customers end up being not happy with the final result because, well, my coloring wasn't good enough for you. Didn't come out what you imagined. Yeah, for sure. And Ashleigh, I'd be curious to know, obviously things have shifted here in US since the pandemic, and we've seen quite a bit of a slowdown. How are things in Canada right now? If you can give us kind of like a quick overview of whether it's like your local market or a broader picture of Canada, real estate, like what's happening in your case. Like obviously you also experienced labor shortages, as you mentioned. You had some supply chain issues. Are things getting better? Is the market hot still, or is it kind of being affected by overall economy slowdown, or are you guys not seeing that?
So I can't speak to all of Canada because we're obviously, just like the US, it's a big it's a big country. But for our customers in kind of the western side, there has been like seasonal slowdowns that we would expect always. Obviously, we're in the spring market now. I can tell things are picking up. We're seeing upticks in approvals, upticks in sales activity, and also upticks in help desk tickets to me because they're like, hey, I forgot how to do this. I haven't done it in such a long time. Overall, our market has been pretty steady other than the seasonal changes. I think that obviously there's been huge spikes in interest rates. So that has definitely changed the buying power of, for some of our first time home buyers. So there's a little bit less action in that sphere, but it hasn't been substantially impacted on our end, which we're very lucky for. From the builders I've chatted with as well, there are obviously always communities or areas of the cities that are hotter than others. So the ones that are still in hot areas, they're still selling really well. And that's what we're seeing in our system too. That, in a more rural area that's, a little bit of a harder sell, or a brand new subdivision where you're literally a show home, surrounded by dirt and nothing else yet because it's just the start of things. That obviously takes a lot more work to sell, and it typically does move a bit slower. That is where the corner store is going to be, just like right where this dirt is. That's where it's going to be. So
that's when a new go comes in, and we can help those clients, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like this is the visualization. So I mean, we do like I've seen what you guys have for like lot maps and stuff. We do something similar. It just, obviously any of those visual tools like you guys have and we have, they help buyers in master plan communities and builders sell so much more easily because they can see where their house is going to be relative to the river, relative to the school, relative to the bus stops, et cetera, right? It's not like they're having to make it up in their head.
Yeah, because we all know how well that turns out. So let's talk a little bit more about the visualization tools that you guys provide. So can you talk to us about some of the like what's available from your end?
Sure. So obviously we already have all of our customers' lot inventory in Streetscape. So we use that, and we create Google Maps based lot maps for the subdivision. We can obviously do just in an individual phase, but our preference and our clients' preference, because they are developers in master plan communities, is to have a full subdivision map that gives a layout of the current stage all the way to the final stage, with all of the amenities kind of nestled in. For any subdivisions that may be in their first phase, typically the future lot phases will just be numbered out, but then with the detailed lot inventory and obviously the sales status that goes on your website, so that you can update your lot maps in real time and give the buyers that are starting their home search online, everybody is, the tools that they can at least see, like, okay, they have that pie lot that I'm looking for in this subdivision that's backing out to the river. That's exactly what I want. Like, so it's a nice like segue into a conversation. We do also do some 3D modeling as well. So we do this a little bit more with our commercial clients, but we're working towards doing it a little bit more so with our residential clients, is being able to tour basically properties with in a 3D environment with all of the infrastructure and the completed buildings modeled. So from a leasing standpoint, they can obviously see like where there are leasing opportunities and can use that as a sales tool on their website.
Predominantly you're in Canada. Have you guys crept into the US yet, or are you looking to move into the US? Talk to us about that, because a lot of our listeners are US based.
Yeah.
So I definitely, if we have some US developers or builders that are interested in your products, is this a good market for them, to reach out to you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've obviously done research on this. The US is a huge market, so that's definitely where we're looking to go. Some of the cities that have a more similar kind of construct to what our current clients are and where our technology is focused is definitely like the Texas markets, Colorado, Florida, like you mentioned, where there are those master plan communities. We obviously haven't looked at New York or kind of those areas quite as much because they're more infills, and that's just not kind of who we serve.
Right. Well, I'm in the Carolinas, and I used to live where Anya lives in the Pennsylvania area, and she's right. Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, there's not a lot of master plans, but as you come south, where I live in Charleston and like the South Carolina, North Carolina, all as you move down the coast, we're all master plan communities in Florida. Yeah. So definitely this would be a huge market for you guys for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. We're definitely anywhere where there's a master plan community, that's where we're looking at to help. So
very good.
Yeah, it's all new and shiny in the South.
There's still lots of land to build on. That's the thing, in the Northeast, you're building up vertically, kind of like Toronto, you're building up.
Yeah.
Down here, in Texas, we still have lots of land to build on, and they keep going further out. So there's still lots of, I like to call it opportunity, lots of opportunity for home builders and for our industry to build. So
for sure. So Ashleigh, as we wrap things up here, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you'd like our listeners to know, whether it's about your company, about you, or anything else that's going on currently?
I would just say keep an eye on us. We have some exciting things going on that I'm unfortunately not allowed to talk about yet, but maybe we can reconnect in about 6 months and we can chat about those things. We're obviously always pushing the envelope, looking for ways to increase our efficiencies using the emerging technologies that are becoming very popular these days. And we're working a lot on basically ways to help land developers sell more lots faster. So we're working on some additional subsystems to do that. And I hope I can talk to you about them more the next time we connect.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
And if somebody wanted to learn more about Streetscape and what you guys do, what's the best way? Where do we find more information on you?
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to reach out directly to us, you can reach out at support@streetscape.ai, and I will literally be the person on the end answering that question. And if you want to just kind of check us out, we have a website, which is streetscape.ai.
Perfect. And you guys definitely be sure to connect with Ashleigh on Instagram. And obviously I saw you're also on LinkedIn, and Ashleigh spells her name Ashleigh. So not your regular Ashleigh.
No, I'm not your regular Ashleigh. To be fair, my parents spelled my name that way, but
I love the spelling. I like the way I love that.
Yes.
I love the way
thank you.
So it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Always so cool to get to know all the women in tech and what you're doing. Is definitely happy to see that you're pushing the envelope forward for our builders and educating them about all things technology, because as you said, we definitely can come much further than we have. Although, I used to think that we were behind the regular real estate, but we're actually ahead.
We're good with real estate. We're tied or ahead with real estate. I'm just comparing it to other industries in the world, like the real estate industry in general, building, developing, etc., is all a little bit behind. We just need to jump in.
For sure. So you guys be sure to check out Ashleigh's Instagram. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes. And hopefully we'll get to meet you sometime at maybe a builder show, or, you know, whenever they let you out of Canada.
Exactly, for sure.
Well, thanks so much for being a guest today, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.